is dubbing the infected the reclaimed.
Some say it's the planet's attempt to reclaim balance by killing us all off.
Good morning, Lowell and Douglas. How are you doing, guys?
Good. Nice to see you again, Howard.
Good to see you. Yes, it's a long time since we've not actually seen each other. We've spoken over the phone, I think, but it was like 10 years ago, I think, for Wolf Cop. I can't believe it's been 10 years. How are you doing?
I can't believe it either. It's actually 10 years this year. So
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, yeah.
I know I'm getting all those alerts, and when you get the alerts, they're like, here's what you were doing 10 years ago.
Oh, God, those are horrible.
I thought you meant the alerts that the grey hair started to come out.
Yeah, I've definitely got my beard.
Congratulations on the film. It's fantastic, Die Alone. First of all, Lowell, how was Spain? I missed you. I usually go to see you, and I missed it this year, unfortunately. So unfortunately, we didn't get to bump into each other. How did that treat you?
It was great. It was exhausting. I came back with COVID.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But that's that shows how good it was. It's
a
like
souvenir, yeah.
Yeah, that's my souvenir. It was really fun. I've never been to Sitges before, and the Wolf Cop films played there and another film I did.
Right.
But this is my first time getting to go in person, and now I kind of am embarrassed I didn't go the other times. It's just great.
Yeah, I mean, the Midnight Extreme section is really great because you also get to play with like a couple of other films. I think one was Argentinian, one was from Thailand. So that must have been quite a good experience now to kind of, I mean, obviously it's a midnight crowd, but to be with other directors from different countries at the same time, now sharing the screen.
It was, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely cool. I mean, we all had the zombie theme for the films, but I would say I was very insecure about our film because it's a midnight screening. It's a room full of people. There's like bloodlust in the air, and the other two, the zombie films, are very intense zombie films. Like there's bigger budget, a war, things at war, people ripping each other apart, and then the evening ends or the morning ends with ours, which is like a very quiet, kind of almost gentle, like epilogue zombie movie. So. I was like, how do we fit in here? But people were so kind. They stayed. They were super into it. And we had really thoughtful conversations after. So, yeah, long-winded way of saying it was great.
It was a great time, yeah. And you came out with COVID as a souvenir. Brilliant.
So wait, are you not allowed to talk about the other thing with Sitges? Do you have to wait?
I mean, I guess it depends when this is coming out. I don't know when you're posting this, Howard, but
I can edit a little bit. You've left me intrigued now, Douglas.
We just found out we won the audience award for.
You've won the audience award. Brilliant. I imagine that might have been what you were going to say. Fantastic. Congratulations on that. So.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. Like based on the whole midnight of it all, and the kind of movie it is. But that was a better souvenir than COVID.
Sure. Yeah. So that'll probably come out tomorrow. The news, I imagine, usually on the Saturday thing. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, they'll announce tomorrow.
So I mean, obviously, this is kind of different. I know. I mean, I was reading the press kit, and it kind of said that for you, Lowell, you decided to kind of take a more, not mature, but more of a kind of a more serious film this time around. Was there any specific reason why you decided to go kind of more serious? And I imagine Emerson was kind of not so keen on that because he wasn't going to get. I mean, he does get his blood and guts in there, but he was probably not so keen to do that with you at first. No.
Actually, no. He was all for it. Like this film, I had written before I even wrote Wolf Cop. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's almost like a choose your own adventure of like where a career can go, right? Because like people supported Wolf Cop immediately and nobody wanted to make Die Alone, so I made a few movies in that vein. And but I kept wanting to make this film, and you bring up Emerson, makeup effects artist and friend who I work with. He absolutely was like one of those people who every couple of years is like, we got to make Die Alone, man. You got to get that. You got to resurrect it. He was so passionate about making Die Alone. He made his own T-shirts for Die Alone that he was wearing 2 years before the movie even existed. And people were like, what is that shirt? And he's like, you got to make it now. There's a shirt. So it was, no, it was always just something that was rattling around in the back of my brain. And I needed to get the movie made. And I feel like I've exorcised a demon by having it finally exist in the world.
And it's also tragic because the Canadian distributor put it out in every single major city in Canada except for the city that Emerson lives in.
I know. That like he was like, I'm not going to say I teased him about it, but I'm like, just go to the movie. And when he actually came to Spain, because he
went to Spain because it wasn't playing in Vancouver.
Yeah, he wanted to see it on the big screen. And like, I think I annoyed him a little when I was like, oh, if I have to see this again, I've watched it 8 times in a theater. He's like, thanks, rub it.
It's literally, it played in like Alberta, played in Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Regina,
Quebec, every
Winnipeg,
city in Quebec.
Toronto, every city in Quebec. It played in like 30 different theaters in Quebec. It didn't play in the Maritimes, but it didn't play in British Columbia, Vancouver. It's a pretty major market, and that's where Emerson lives. It's so crazy.
Sounds like you did it on purpose. So listen, Douglas, the one thing I want to talk to you about the film is, I mean, it's a fantastic performance, especially, and the reason why I say it's fantastic for me is whenever I see films where a guy's got amnesia or someone's, they lose their memory, it usually kind of feels a bit cheesy, especially in kind of TV shows and things like you're following a series, then all of a sudden this guy's lost the memory or this woman's lost the memory, and it's like, oh, come on, this. But here it really, really works. Can you tell me a little bit how you kind of tapped into that kind of amnesia to make sure that it really felt so as authentic as it does in the film?
It's interesting. It's hard to talk about acting, it's hard to articulate it. I did have a thought about this. I was in British Columbia recently. My father is there. My father's in a facility. He's got Alzheimer's, and I've been dealing with him for a while, since I don't know, since about 2018. So for about 6 years. And I was, after watching the movie, I innately was mirroring my father a bit, because we'll have conversations, and then that sort of, particularly when Ethan falls down and she says, "I'm May," he's like, "I know," and there's that moment where he's trying to like hide it, and that's how it is with my father, and so I wasn't conscious that I was doing it, and then it was like after just seeing him recently and watching the film, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I was doing, huh? Okay. So I sometimes you do these things in acting and you don't even know where they're coming from. But that I think was inspired by the sort of condition that my father has.
Uh-huh. Then also, I want to ask you a little bit about your co-star, Carrie-Anne Moss. Obviously, she was in Anne Moss. She was in Memento, which is one of my favorite films of all time. Was that as a happy accident, or was that something that you actually intentionally kind of wanted to pay homage to Memento and bring her into this film, or how did that
I
come
mean, I
about?
wish I could take credit, like I was like, I'll just get the person in Memento. But no, I mean, honestly, when we were gonna go out to Carrie-Anne, and I had Memento as an image that was like one of my comparables in the pitch deck, because that's a very similar tone of emotional film, and the mystery of it all. And I was like, oh no, like she's gonna look at this and think like we're trying to, smack up to
Yeah.
her or something. So I actually took it out of the pitch deck. I'm like, pull
All
that
right.
image out. I don't want to make her think like we're trying to do it for that reason. And but she, like, one of the best compliments I'll never forget. She said like she felt reading Dialogue like she felt reading Memento. So I was like, okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Brilliant, brilliant. And then obviously working with her, who she previously worked on Memento. I mean, this question for both of you. Did you talk about Memento to kind of talk about how to approach like this, like I was talking about the amnesia and that memory aspect of the film at all?
I'll start. I mean, for me, no, not really. I mean, I think the comparison began and ended with the structure of the idea of a character with amnesia, but I think like we really wanted to create our own set of rules
Yeah.
and structures to follow for this film. And I wanted to make sure my logic was airtight. And so, I mean, I did do what I'm sure they did with Memento at some point, which is like I laid it all out linear in a linear fashion of this is going to be the story. But once I knew that and I double checked my homework, it was more just like, what's the emotional arc of the character? How do I make sure that even if the movie's bouncing around in time, it doesn't feel like we're taking a step forward and back in the emotions. I want the emotions to constantly rise, no matter where we are in time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Douglas?
And they give me 2 minutes. So just to finish off then, obviously I don't want to give too much away about it, but I mean, I think you can say it's got a touch of, I don't know how to call it, plant-based zombie thing going on there. I don't want to give too much away. Because you wanted it to be more of a serious film, what kind of limits did you draw in terms of Emerson's special effects and kind of how far you wanted to take those aspects of the film to not kind of overdo, like you said, that you wanted to keep the sentiments and kind of the character-based topics more central in the film?
It's really hard to discuss the creatures because of some of the twists and turns of
Sure.
the script, but there is a plan to their design, and I can say like like I know some people are like, why do these characters or these ones look more like this and these ones look more like that? Much like we mapped out the amnesia plot, we mapped out the style and look of the reclaimed in this film and which ones, how monstrous they look versus how less monstrous they look, and at what point in the script and story do you see each of them. So it was all very much by design. Like sometimes you just want to think, hey, this is fun, but then suddenly you're like, wait, why does that one look like that? Are you giving me a clue to something? So, but Emerson just had fun, and I mean, he was a little restrained for sure in terms of like, you know, when you're creating a werewolf cop, there's a lot to do there versus like create a more conventional zombie and then create one that's a little more interesting. So, but he had his hands full, you know, like he one of his biggest points of pride is Emerson, like myself, he's a huge fan of The Matrix. And
Right.
When he found out that Carrie-Anne was going to play May, and he knew like his biggest job on this film, I said, it's not the creatures, it's May's scar. I said, May's scar has to be perfect. So then that became his obsession. And it took all his strength not to tell her he loved The Matrix until the movie was over.
Oh, listen, they're giving the wrap. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you all the best of success when it comes out next week. And congratulations for what happened in Sieges. And I'll release that news when it's allowed to be released. So thanks very much for your time, guys. And I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Thanks,
Thank
Howard.
you.
All right,
Nice
nice to
talking.
speak to you. Take care. Bye now.
Anything else in here?
Just poison.